Pecha Kucha 145, Chernobyl, and Batman Detective. So yeah, I don't envisage a change anytime soon, but as I have a full-time job, I think it is just going to be a couple of comic books that I'll be reading and talking about. I basically only have time even to read these on the train home when I can actually get a seat. Right, so Chernobyl, the Zone, is basically about the nuclear disaster of Chernobyl that happened in the 80s. A very serious comic that could be a lot more serious. Let's get into it. So it's kind of it's black and white and it's just done in ink, and it starts with like an old couple returning after the mass evacuation to their rural area, where they basically start trying to rebuild, having decided that they'd rather just die where they lived than live somewhere else waiting to die. And the old couple do manage to work the land and manage to survive. There's very little dialogue in maybe the first third of this book. It's very stoic. It feels Russian, whatever that means, which I do like. You just see people getting on with it. After a while, the old lady gets sick. Is it the radiation? Is it just the life they lead? One way or the other, they continue as best they can, and then the story switches to their kids, and it also goes back to before the accident happened. So the creative team have tried to humanize one of the most terrible nuclear disasters in history by kind of focusing on what happened to just one family. And like the grandparents' kid works in the actual reactor site, and it's only halfway through, and basically just this one page where the incident, the explosion itself, is covered. I think it was a decided decision to not focus on it too much and more about the disruption it caused the lives of the people afterwards. So in the days and week that followed, people were told to evacuate the city. And they were told they'd only be away for 3 days. Of course, no one ever came back. But people didn't take their stuff with them. They weren't allowed to take their pets. And then at the end of the book, it's about 20 years after it happened, and one of the young kids has grown up, and he's gone back, and he's kind of blagged his way in there to go back to his old house. And he's like a photographer who kind of reports on this. And all throughout this, there are these people called the liquidators who had to kill everybody's pets and siphon the gas out of vehicles because they were irradiated and all kinds of stuff, and they all got sick and died. And so there's a lot of kind of things to this that the book covers, and I found it educational enough. There's the foreword and the afterword also help put it in context. But you can't just read comics and learn something. Sometimes you just need some Batman. Batman Detective, I think I've read one before. They seem to just be apocryphal Batman stories that could happen at any time, and they are exactly what you'd want them to be. Penguin is front and center in this one, in the pettiest way, trying to steal the legacy of Bruce Wayne and secure the Cobblepot legacy by having the new Martha Wayne wing of the hospital or whatever named after his family instead, because pettiness is petty, right? Bruce Wayne, not particularly pleased. One of the most interesting characters in this is the Penguin's lieutenant, who kind of does everything on his behalf, and ultimately, when the Penguin is kidnapped by the Joker, takes over his empire. It's an interesting book, well written, full of characters who, simply by virtue of excellent dialogue, like this instance where there's a petty thief assisting the Penguin's lieutenant, executing an excellent robbery in a way where Batman won't be called to stop them. It's just very well written, and there are throwbacks to the old school Batman. There are at least 2 points in this book, I think, where Batman could be killed, but no one can be bothered to kill him because it's Batman, and if you kill him, there'd be no more Batman comics, and then you couldn't sell more Batman comics. Poison Ivy gets kidnapped. She's running games, and there's a really interesting thing where Batman has set up his helmet to basically give himself epileptic fits to prevent himself from falling under Poison Ivy's pheromone sway. So again, there's a lot of intelligent writing to support really nonsense ideas, and the art by Jason Fabok, and I think there's a fill-in artist on one of them. The writing and the art is just, it's what you'd hope for, it's what you'd expect from a comic book made post 2000. This is excellent entertainment. You won't learn anything, but you're in very safe hands. Interesting idea as well is that the Joker isn't really in this, but his presence is felt because he's making people crazy because he's a popular culture icon, more than he's just got some kind of crazy gas in the air. People just go nuts because that's the kind of place Gotham is. It's an interesting idea, and I like how they use it. And the Joker shows up in like a weird flashback saving the Penguin from Zsasz. It's always interesting seeing Rogues Gallery members interact. Whatever this is about is not within the remit of this comic, which I feel is how Batman Detective works. It's not really about going anywhere. It's just entertainment for the sake of entertainment, but by God was I entertained. I wouldn't want to buy it though, so I'm very glad to have taken out both of those books from the library. Right, so sad clown of the week is William Hills, because they're going to close loads of shops because the government has decided that they can't keep robbing poor people of their rent money. Why does that make them the sad clown? Because the government, whenever they decided, a different government a decade ago decided it was okay for them to rob all the poor people of their rent money, and now they've kind of done a flip-flop. This is specifically about fixed odds betting terminals. The maximum bet you can place per, let's say, bet has gone from £100 to £2, which means you can't bet your rent money. You logistically wouldn't be able to put on enough bets unless you were playing like 10 machines at the same time. And even then, that's even a bigger logistical problem. But the thing about those fixed odds betting terminals is they literally pay the wages of the staff in the shops, and it's not an exaggeration. When I was working in a betting shop years ago, it was so obvious. On my last day, they the head office sent out like a lovely produced graphic designed document explaining how we needed to basically feed these people, give them sandwiches and cups of tea to keep them in those chairs all day, because that was the business strategy for the bloody industry. So yeah, if those FOBs can't take the money, then shops have to close. It's funny, I kind of thought if this office job didn't work out, I'd end up back in Hills, but it seems like that might not be the case. So that brings us to the end of Pecha Kucha 145, and I will see you next time.